Hey everyone, ThyWorm here, dissecting the devlog. Let's start.
Greetings Pagans. As some of you folks from Discord already know, my name is Tamara and I'm a game designer for Pagan Online. Welcome to another devlog, Devlog 4.
Fun fact I think, Tamara over here, or Tamara, is the person who actually designed the Oathbreaker, the legendary weapon for Valyria, and that just happens to be one of my favorite items in the entire game. I think the legendary power, the locked and loaded, is just so fun to use. It completely enables a new build for Valyria and overall it's just a great item. So it's nice to see her doing the devlog today.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the current state of the game and more importantly the current state of our favorite heroes. As many of you know, Damir is actually notorious for being one of the few heroes who can manage in the post-campaign missions and who can do these missions without any hardships. This issue is actually twofold. The first factor concerns the fact that we have some misplaced difficulty spikes in our game, and the other factor concerns the fact that Damir is not actually working as intended. So regarding Damir's damage, the nerf that was introduced in 0.4 as well as previous nerfs won't actually affect your gameplay that much. You may have noticed this when you were playing Damir. The reason behind this is that Damir's power actually comes from a bug that we were just recently able to unearth. In fact, Vavan used to benefit from gear every time you equip something else. So you will get exponentially more damage and end up with a character who is 100 times stronger than any other character and even than Damir himself.
I've read some of your comments and also some of those of easy mode, for example, in the Discord quite a few times on this topic. And while I did sort of have an idea that swapping gear would temporarily increase Vavan's power, I was not aware that it actually permanently increases Vavan's power, which does explain a thing or two. Expect this to work for maybe a few more weeks, but after that Vavan will probably work as intended.
This is not something that we intended. This kind of lack of control, both on our side as designers and on your side as players, is something that we definitely want to avoid. We want you to be really powerful and OP for reasons that have things to do with your builds and the ways that you design your character, not because of some back-end bug that you can't control.
I think it's good she mentions this. They don't mind us killing things at a fast pace on a higher difficulty, but they just want it to be done for the right reasons. And the right reasons are you gearing up completely or you crafting a build that is really effective. Some things like that, like actually using the game mechanics to be able to clear high-end content. And right now people are using bugs and overpowered and broken characters to complete high-end content, and that's apparently not what the developers want, which I totally get.
However, when it comes to balancing, making Damir on par with other characters just won't cut it. We will have to make all characters, including Damir, both fun and fulfilling as much as Vavan's broken shenanigans one did, just without the broken part. So while we do have a lot of plans, while we do plan on implementing a complex and meaningful skill tree, redesigning items and stats that you can use on these items, we won't let you guys fend for yourselves and just wait for us to implement all of these features. We want you to know that we are committed to adjusting the game and changing the game so you can play it right now without waiting a long time to get on with your characters. Which brings us to another issue, and that is difficulty scaling. Everybody loves beating the impossible, except when you actually get to beat it. We are aware that our difficulties are a little bit misplaced and they're making a lot of issues for all of our newcomers. This is not something that we intended. And we could have just nerfed the whole difficulty settings across the whole board, but we have a few reasons that we didn't do this in this patch. Regarding this issue, we wanted to do something more for you. We wanted to make difficulties appropriate for different player goals. For example, if you want to just unlock all the characters and level them up, there should be no difficulty that stands in your way. However, if you really want to test your mettle and prove that you have the best gear in all the land of Rod, this should require some effort, skill and time. This is the main reason why we didn't simply nerf all the difficulties. We wanted to make them more meaningful and more rewarding for your different player goals. However, we do realize that this is a really big issue for some of you guys, and we will try to ease your pain a little bit as early as the next patch.
So here you catch a glimpse of the philosophy behind the difficulty scaling. In patch 0.2, difficulty got a huge boost, making everything a lot harder. And that caused issues, because new players were suddenly unable to complete content. For veteran players like me, the changes were fine, but there was definitely a huge discrepancy here between the veterans and the newbies. Now it's more clear what the intent was of these difficulty changes. Normal difficulty is meant for casual play, for getting through the levels, for leveling your characters. Hard and Master difficulty are in place to provide more challenges for veteran players. The problem, however, was that also Hard and Master difficulty missions were tied to progression. For example, the notorious Cleansing Waters mission on Master difficulty, which had to be done by players in order to progress. And especially after the bump in difficulty in patch 0.2, some players were simply unable to clear this mission. Since patch 0.2, however, the game was more and more lenient towards newer players specifically, and I think this trend continues. I definitely expect the high prerequisite requirements such as the Hard and Master difficulty missions to be scrapped completely from the game, so people can just progress through the game without jamming their heads against a wall. A very frustrating wall at that.
Finally, we've implemented a big change to the way you unlock heroes. We've implemented hero souls that actually let you choose heroes which you want to unlock and in the order that you prefer. This is only the first iteration though. We plan to give you guys a lot of different ways to unlock different heroes, but for now this is what we're sticking with. I know this is a change that won't affect veteran players as much and people who have hundreds of hours in Pagan Online, but I think we can all really be excited for our newcomers.
I talked a little bit about this change already in my previous video, and although these changes are completely useless to me because I have 170 hours in the game and I have everybody unlocked and everybody is level 30, I am still genuinely happy for all the new players that are now just able to pick the hero that they want to play. I think it's a huge improvement and it really enables players more freedom and basically to do whatever they want.
Many of you are impatient for new content, and rightfully so. Smashing new foes and overcoming new challenges is the main reason why we play video games in the first place. New acts and missions are already underway in Pagan Online. Most of the story is actually in the final development stages and some of it is actually in the testing phases. However, for each day that brings us closer to full launch, we have less and less room for error, especially with big updates such as RD's content updates. This is why it takes us a little bit more time to iron out all of these different production wrinkles when it comes to new enemies, new zones, and new story arcs. But that being said, we do expect to bring new content to you guys over the next couple of months.
The original planning for Madhead Games was to release Act 6 with some other content, and then later on release Act 7 and 8 together as a single package. Based on some of the stuff I read on Discord, some conversations with the devs and this video, Act 6 will be out near the end of summer, and Act 7 and 8 probably around the end of the year. That's also the time when Madhead expects to be leaving early access, by the way.
As the campaign comes to a close, we will actually be approaching the real endgame for Pagan Online. This is why we are developing different endgame loops in parallel with our story arcs and campaign acts. While most of the systems are already designed, our tech team is left with the really difficult task of implementing all of these systems without burning everything else down. To give you just a taste of what's to come, we expect to implement new ways of mixing and matching different item properties, of leveling up and using your skill points as well as gaining them, as well as gaining new legendary powers for your legendary gear. This is all meant to come alongside new zones and new enemies in the future patches.
So they're not going to have us sit around and wait till Act 6 hits. In the meantime, there will be other stuff to do as well, some gameplay loops and some other stuff that Tamara just talked about. That's nice to hear, and so far every bi-weekly patch has definitely added some production value to the game. I did find though that for veteran players it's usually not enough. Why? Because no actual content is added. It's more balancing, tweaking existing systems, that kind of thing. And that's okay, I feel, because it's early access. An exception to this was the Legendary Overhaul, which brought us fun new ways to play Pagan Online.
We're super happy that the Legendary Overhaul was meaningful to you guys and that you managed to put all of this gear into awesome new uses. We will definitely keep on tweaking legendaries, especially the non-weapon items, so they can fit both in your legendary sets as well as your mishmash of epics and legendaries. Legendary amulets and rigs are also in the works, and while our artists work on conjuring up all of this awesome art that you will be proud to call a part of your inventory screenshot, we aim to design them in a way that will fit well with other legendary items.
And there's more legendary stuff coming up. And this makes sense to me from a developer perspective. You can in a relatively easy way add a lot of value to the game by just designing some new and fun legendary items to use. And these legendaries can completely change the way certain characters play, like the Oathbreaker I talked about. Now, most of the fun and unique legendary powers are exclusive to weapons. If we see similar creative designs on rings and amulets, we will be able to come up with some pretty funky builds, even without an overhauled skill tree design.
Our most important goal with Pagan Online is to make a game that's about improving yourself, staying quick on your feet and sharpen your decision making. We never wanted to make a game that's about clicking a button in the Reforge or about meaningless grind. This is why we're super grateful to you guys for staying with us and sticking with us while we move away from this repetitiveness and get closer to our goal. This would not be possible without your extensive and insightful feedback, so we're committed to improving our game until each and every system in it makes you feel really good about spending time with us. Until next time, see you on the Pantheon.
These are the sort of statements that truly make me a believer in the future of this game. Tamara is basically saying here that in its current state, this game is a repetitive grind. Which is true. It doesn't suck or anything, I don't think, but it is definitely a grind and people will get bored, including myself. The Reforge button remark is a direct reference to how you used to be able to level your craftsman level. Reforging blue items used to give 40 item experience every time you did so people would just farm a ton of materials and then endlessly click that Reforge button, like I did in a video previously as well. After this, Reforging got nerfed pretty heavily, and now also crafting has become somewhat of a grind. It's good that the developers are honest about this, that they're not making any excuses and that they're mentioning that this is unintended. They didn't want these systems to turn out like this. And I can tell from my own experience that there is always a small discrepancy or sometimes a big discrepancy between how you design certain items or software or applications to be and then how people are going to interact and use them. So I completely see where these guys are coming from and I have all the respect for them basically recognizing what is wrong with the game, I think correctly stating what the current state of the game is and just mentioning that this is unintentional and will be fixed in the future. The honesty here is truly appreciated and it is something that other developers in the gaming industry can learn a lot from. Subscribe for more Pagan Online videos, guys. I am also streaming Monday, Wednesday and Friday, 8 PM Central European Time. Hope to see you all there. You can find me on Twitter as well, @ThyWorm. And for now, guys, thanks for watching and I will see you soon. Bye bye.